Hello, wonderful people of the internet. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Witcher, The Blood of Elves, which is the first book in the Witcher novel series and the fourth book in the chronological reading order for the series. Yeah, okay, so without any further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so The Witcher Blood of Elves by Andrzej Sapkowski. What is it about? So this, as I said, is the fourth book chronologically in this series, although the reading order is a nightmare. Anyway, this is the first book in the novel series, so it's the first book of the main story of The Witcher. So what's The Witcher about? You'll probably already know because I've spoken about it a fair amount on this channel, but it's about a guy called Geralt who is a Witcher, which is a mutant human who was created to hunt monsters, and this is about basically what happens to him after destiny comes knocking at his door in the form of a small child whose entire city where she comes from has been destroyed. And it's literally just what happens after that. That's the story. Can't go into anything more without spoilers. So I'll do a non-spoiler and spoiler section as per usual, and we'll get straight into the non-spoiler elements. So, Andrew Garfield is looking happy, so we'll start off with what I liked about this book. So I'm actually really conflicted about this book. I finished it about 10 minutes ago, and I don't know how to feel. And this is going to be really jumbly and me just spitballing. It's going to be me thinking out loud and trying to consolidate how I feel about this, and hopefully at the end I have a definitive rating out of 10. So we'll see. So what did I like about this book? I really like kind of the world of The Witcher, and it's hard to say why because it's not particularly unique in any way, but I like going. Maybe it's because I've played the video games or video game. I've played the third one. I really like reading it and seeing the places in my head, which helps because, as I said, I played the video games. They go to quite a few places in this one, I believe. There's Oxenfurt, which is a new location, I believe, and so I was like, oh, it's Oxenfurt, isn't that fun? And whenever there's a monster mentioned or a new character introduced, and since this is the first book in the novel series, all these characters who were in the games that are set after the books turn up for the first time in these, and so I'm like, oh, it's him, that's him. And another element for me is figuring out where the hell places are. Usually in books, it's if you read Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, and it helps to know where all the places are. There's an atlas for it. But usually when I'm reading, I don't have a very good sense of geography. But in this, since politics are a big part, I have to remember the names of countries, and I need to remember the names of their rulers. So it's Foltest of Temeria, Vizimir of Redania. We've got Demowend or something like that of Ada, and Henzel of Kaidwin. It's I need to remember that all, and there was another one of I think Rivia or something like that. I'm not sure, but there's just a lot of things I need to remember, and even though it's kind of hard to wrap my head around, I just enjoy feeling clever once I've sorted it in my brain. So yeah, positive. I like kind of the fact that because there's no map in here. I've enjoyed having to figure out where places are, remembering which people own countries and things like that. Well, not countries. Well, yeah, kind of. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's I know where the Yaruga is. I know where the Pontar is. I'm an expert, man. It's fun. So that's been really fun. I also really like the characters in The Witcher. Now, this is where it gets a bit dicey because I have kind of preconceived notions of who the characters are from the show and the game. And so when I'm reading this, the characters are either not in the spot that they are when it's in the game or are just completely different in some cases. And so it does give me a kind of a feeling of whiplash reading it. And the way Sapkowski writes characters is incredibly unique. He tends to not internally monologue anything. You don't get much of an insight into a character's head at all. And so you see their entire personality and kind of what they're thinking pretty much solely through how they talk to other people, and so it's kind of like a net thing. You find out about the characters as they talk to each other, and it's unique. And I think I like it, but since I already kind of know the characters of The Witcher really well, I'm not sure how effective it's being and what conclusions I'm drawing from it. Um, whether they're influenced by the game or not. And I have realized there's quite a bit of interference. I'm like expecting someone to do one thing and then they're not, and I'm then getting annoyed. But I'm like, but hang on, this is not. This is the original character. The person you're thinking of isn't the original. It's weird, and I'm upset that it's doing that. But characters, I still really love the characters. I love them all. But the way Sapkowski writes characters is different, and I'm uncertain on it. But I do love the characters. Yennefer, Dandelion, Geralt. Don't like Ciri. I don't think anyone likes Ciri. I like Dijkstra, although Dijkstra isn't quite the Dijkstra I know from the games. That's fine. I like Shani. Who else was in this? It's pretty much everyone. I really liked the Emperor. Emir van Eris, the white flame dancing on the graves of his foes. He had one scene, and that was cool. I liked him. I like a lot of the characters. It's just how they're written is strange, and sometimes it comes across like they're all the same person just because it's only through dialogue, really. But they all have their things. They all have their things. And while we're on characters, I'll talk about another thing. Sapkowski is an Isayama, and Isayama is the guy who wrote Attack on Titan, and Attack on Titan is a manga series, and the way it tends to work is characters will do long monologues about their ideologies at various points, and all the characters do it, and the whole kind of viewing or reading experience is about knowing exactly where the characters are, so that when their ideologies get smashed down, you then understand where they are mentally. And it's kind of like that in the book. Characters will have long conversations, which I'll talk about in the negative section, where they are discussing how they view the world. And so it does get a bit mind numbing, and occasionally you do forget who's talking, but it does in the end show you how they view the world, and it does contribute to character development when they kind of don't follow the thing that was set up earlier. Although I've got quite a short attention span, or at least I'm not as used to this style of writing as maybe a more experienced adult fantasy reader, and so the impact of these sort of things doesn't hit me as much as maybe it should. It feels kind of like I'm listening to a joke that I don't understand the punchline on, or like being part of an inside joke that I'm not in on. It's kind of like that. I kind of get a vague sense that it's impressive and that it's important, but I don't quite understand how it's being played, and maybe that's me, maybe that's the writing, but that's just a thing that I felt. But quickly, before I get into the negatives, because there are negatives for this is a book that I have very mixed feelings about. I'm going to talk about the plot. I really like the plot in this book. I don't like how the plot is written, but I do enjoy the story as a whole. There are some really good moments that actually, like, in one part, kind of in the middle, make me gasp out loud. I was like, "Oh, what?" Yeah, there was it's a really good story, and it does keep you on your toes when it's moving fast enough. It's enjoyable, that seeing how this. It's kind of like a mystery book, this one. It's kind of like a mystery. There's not much of a story. It's kind of a chain of events sort of thing. It's hard to explain. But I did enjoy what happened, whatever it was. The action was really good. A lot of the action scenes, when the story got moving, it didn't stop, and that was fun. But when it did stop, it stopped. Yeah, actually, we'll just get into the negatives now in the non-spoiler, so then we can just, because I carry on hinting at this stuff and it's too vague. So my problem with the book largely was inconsistent pacing. So throughout the book there would be kind of like chapters where it was just people talking and I don't remember what they say. It gets quite confusing. There's like one meeting with a group of wizards in which they're discussing politics, and there's another one with 5 rulers discussing politics. And I don't understand modern day politics, real politics. So it's like I'm not going to understand this either because I don't have a very reasonable grasp of how any of this stuff works, or at least kind of what the chain of thought would be in the situations that are going on here. It's like, because this is fantasy, I'm like, I don't have the political knowledge to kind of read this and kind of go, yeah, okay, yep, 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 political stuff. Maybe it's either I'm really dense or it's just written like that, and I'm more willing to believe that I'm dense. So, but yeah, it just felt like there were really long conversations when they kind of felt that they weren't going anywhere. You'd sit there and read it and be like, okay, so that's the point of it. And there was one particular scene which was the royal, the country leaders, king, queen talk, and they were constantly changing their minds, and I was like, no, my brain capacity is reaching maximum. Are you doing this? Are you doing that? I don't know. It got a bit stressful, but these scenes would last for 10 to 20 pages and then move on. And so it's hard to criticise the book as a whole for it, although I did rate this 3 stars on Goodreads, and that is mainly just because I didn't enjoy the pacing. But uh, that's all I've really got to say. It's like, as I said, it's the main negative is I feel like I'm not grasping everything fully, but that's more my problem than it is the books. But we'll go into spoilers now. I'm just going to go over what I've said, but in more detail. So if we flip Andrew Garfield over again, um, so try and think of some good things. Yes, so the really big positive for me was a sequence in the middle of the book in which Ciri and Geralt. So Ciri is the child that the Witcher has to look after, who is tied to him by destiny, which I won't go into, but she is. She He is to look after her, and he's taking her to a temple where his basically surrogate mother lives, because his mother gave him away as a child. So yeah, that he's taking Ciri to this temple because she's got magical powers and she needs to learn to control them. And so he's also accompanied by Triss Merigold, who is currently sick. She's just sick, she's ill. She's kind of not. I think it's because this section of the story is not about Triss. She had a very big section in Kaer Morhen, which is the Witch's Keep. She had a gargantuan section in which she explains how she feels about the world, and that clashes with Geralt's view. And so this middle section was about Geralt's view of the world kind of changing a bit. And so it was important for her to not get involved because then he wouldn't really have to do anything. But she's sick. She's out the picture. While they're going to this temple, Geralt and Ciri hitch a ride with a caravan of dwarves who are taking supplies, secret supplies, to from, I think it was either Aedirn to Caedwen or Caedwen to Aedirn, and I'm not sure which way it was. But there's a political tie. It was something like, we give you. It was an alliance basically. I think one country was closer to the front line of the war that's going on than the other, so the other one was giving it secret support, and the kings were in kind of in communication. But I can't remember which two it was. I think it was Caedwen to Aedirn, if I'm not mistaken. But that doesn't matter to you. So that was what was happening. And on this trip, there was a lot of talking, because talking happens a lot, about the Squartel, which are elves who are, doing kind of like a human rights thing, where they're rebelling against humans and trying to get a foothold in society again, and that's causing a lot of tension. And because this caravan is of dwarves who are non-humans as well and starting to join the Squartel, there's a lot of tension about loyalty of non-humans to humans. And so there's big conversations about why, these dwarves are loyal to humans and not to their kind of kin, if that makes sense. And one of the guys said something along the lines of, so many people had to die for this truce between us and you lot to happen, and so I'm not willing to, fight against it. I'm not going to spit on the deaths of all my ancestors like that, if that kind of makes sense. And I like that. The guy was called Yarpen Zigrin, solid dude. I enjoyed him when he was on the page, and Geralt's attitude neutrality is called into question. So he's always like, in these matters, I'm not going to side with anyone, because when you're all dead and ghouls are eating your bodies, I will get paid by either the Nilfgaardians or us to clean them up, and I don't care who. Basically, that's his attitude. And so it gets called into question. It's like, no, you have to choose a side. You know, this is a war, and you're going to be pulled into it either way. And that is what this section's about. So, uh, things happen, basically. The Ciri and Geralt take a detour to an elven ruin where it's discovered why it was something about an elven martyr who led a charge and killed a lot of the elves in a last stand against humans, and so that's meant to be kind of a symbol of the silliness of blind hatred, something like that. It was something along those lines, because this is like, yeah, it was that was kind of what the message was there. Yeah, that was kind of his point to Ciri, because she was angry. He was saying, this is why we don't just fly into battle, because this is what happens, people die. But the point I'm trying to get to is that the caravan is attacked by the Squartail, and lots of dwarves die, and then it's revealed that the caravan wasn't carrying supplies at all, it was just carrying rocks, and it's revealed that this was a trap to test the dwarves' loyalty, and basically, through this happening, they kind of lose the dwarves' loyalty. You know, the dwarves lose their brothers to test their loyalty, but they were loyal the whole time. And that was so tragic, and I gasped, so I was like, oh, how very dare, you know, it was really good. I really enjoyed that section, and that was the highlight of the book for me, as well as the ending section, which was between Ciri and Yennefer, who is a sorceress. It was Yennefer teaching Ciri magic, and they hated each other at first, you know. Yennefer thought Ciri was annoying, Ciri thought that Yennefer was mean and annoying, and it was slowly seeing their kind of relationship come into the mother-daughter relationship that it finally becomes, and that was quite nice. I enjoyed that. That was just cute, and that was quite easy reading, you know. I didn't need to pay too much attention, because it was mainly about the character dynamics and what was actually going on, although some interesting world-building stuff to do with how magic works happened as well. But yeah, that was all good. I really liked that. And quickly, oh, I also like the introduction of all the politics. So there are spies in this book. The character of Dijkstra and Philippa Eilhart. So Dijkstra is Redania's spy master, and one of my favourite characters from the video games. And so seeing him pop up was like, yay, it's him. And Philippa Eilhart is a character who I'm not overly familiar with, but I thought she was really cool. There's a lot of kind of shady stuff going on with the chapter of wizards, and so she's kind of part of an insight into that, kind of like, you know, they work for the rulers, or kind of, but their goals are entirely separate to the goals of the rulers, and that's quite interesting, and I know that comes to conflict later on. Probably should have paid a bit more attention to all the stuff going on, but I struggle. But yeah, that's another cool thing that I really, really liked. So, negatives. We'll talk quickly about this, because I've spoken about it quite in depth already. So, throughout this book, there are kind of three major scenes that I remember dragging on for longer than I would have wanted them to. So, oh no, I'm going to say two. We'll stick at two, actually. Well, no, we'll border it onto three. So the first one was in... So the book starts with Dandelion, who is one my favourite character from the show, and still one of my favourite characters in the book. Basically, he sung a song, and now all the people gathered around this tree where he sung a song are debating about the current state of the world and kind of what's going to happen. It's like, oh, this has happened with Nilfgaard. Oh, this happened at the Battle of Sodden. Oh, what about the elves? It was kind of like all that happening. So it was all set up, and it dragged on, and I got a bit, you know, me with my bad attention span, because I couldn't read the whole thing in one go. Then when I came back, I was a bit like, what are they on about? And I couldn't tell you really anything that is said from here anyway. It's just really speculation to set up, you know, this is where the world is at the moment, but it's not important, because we see where the world goes later on. Second scene was in Kaer Morhen, where Triss and the witches debate about their views on the world. So the witches are talking about, you know, oh, you know, we don't want to get involved in this war, and Triss is basically like, why? You know, she gets really angry, and it is a bit annoying. It's like, leave the guys alone. It's like, if they don't want to fight in the war, then, you know, fine. Leave them alone. That's how I remember feeling anyway. But it's interesting just to see how the two ideologies play out. I think it was something like Triss was saying, but so many people... It was kind of like the Yarp and Zigrin thing, but she had a different tie to it, because a lot of sorceresses died at the Battle of Sodden, which happened previously, that fought off the invaders called Nilfgaard. But anyway, her motivations were saying, well, my friends died, and I like where we are. I'm going to fight for it, and to honor the dead, and to stand for what I believe in. Whereas the witches don't believe in anything other than their work, kind of. And so that was the big debate. It lasted for far too long. I got bored. That's just how it was. The second one was the Royal Council, in which they're discussing the state of the world again, but they're discussing what they're going to do next. And it's like they were like, 1 minute they're gonna we're gonna kill all the elves. Next they were like, we're gonna go against Nilfgaard. Next they were like, we're gonna kill the spies. Next they were like, oh, we're gonna kill the little girl. I was like, just be coherent. It's like it lasted too long. They spoke about it too much, and it was important yet again, but I just didn't enjoy reading it. And that's the problem with a lot of these. The what's going on is important for your understanding of what happens next, but it just wasn't fun to read at all, and that was the problem. Then there was one with the Wizards Council, I believe, although that one wasn't that bad, even though I can't remember what happened. I think it was kind of like, we're going to do nothing. I can't remember. I'm going to have to look at that when I'm done to consolidate that. But yeah, that's the main thing. You get the idea. It just went on for a while, and even though it was important, it wasn't that enjoyable to read, and maybe could have handled better, I don't know. I'm not going to fault Sapkowski as a writer at all, because I am not qualified to do that. I'm just saying what I thought with my reading experience. I also don't like Ciri. Ciri annoys me. She's just a bit of a brat. And so Yennefer, who I never really liked, because she is a bit cold and a bit biting and kind of a bit annoyingly complex. Like, she's got issues, and I don't know. It's like in the Sword of Destiny, Geralt and Yennefer's relationship, as in romantically, is complicated. And I think it's just like she carries on hurting Geralt. It's like Geralt was gonna kill himself over her. Geralt's a tough dude, and yeah, with her emotional baggage, she kind of, I don't know, drove him to that. But I've grown to really like her, because I understand her emotional baggage kind of a bit more now. Now she's been on the page a bit more, and with her interactions with Ciri towards the end, it kind of shows why she is like she is. Nothing's ever explicitly said, but you get insights into kind of like when she breaks through this persona she gives herself, like, because she's scared of being vulnerable, and now I like that about her character, and I kind of understand, and I get why all this stuff happened in the previous books. But I just didn't like Geralt being upset, because I like Geralt a lot. But yeah, I don't like Ciri, but I do like Yennefer more now. And when Yennefer was being rude to Ciri, which was what I was trying to say earlier, I found it quite funny, because I was like, I don't like it when you're doing it to Geralt, but when you're doing it to this little thing, then yeah, you tear her to shreds. But yeah, that is all I have to say. Now, quick side note, I'm conscious that this is dragging on a bit, sorry. Well, you don't have to stay if you don't want to. The show. Now, I was aware that the show deviated quite massively from the book, just from what people were saying online. Now, I've read The Blood of Elves and know what Season 2 was meant to be based on. I understand why people are angry, and I'm angry myself, because despite all the flaws I pointed out, that could be ironed out in a season of television, I think. Especially when it's visual, you could sharpen the script, make it a bit cleaner, and I feel like them changing the story so dramatically, like, some of the stuff that happens doesn't happen in the book. Like, this stuff with the monoliths breaking and monsters coming through, like, there was like one rock in this story, and it was more about how it's got magic, and it was Yennefer using it to see into Ciri's head, and that was like a scene that was important for reasons that weren't, monsters coming out of rocks. And Yennefer loses her powers in Season 2. In the book, she went blind, and that didn't even happen on page. It's just hinted that happened after the Battle of Sodden. It's like, I don't know. The show just kind of annoys me now, because it's butchered a lot of it. Like, Yennefer tried to kill Ciri. Now, Ciri and Yennefer didn't like each other at first when they met each other in this book, but it definitely wasn't so big a hurdle as you tried to kill me to get your magic back. I don't know how they're going to overcome it, and there's not going to be, logically, moments like what happened in here. And so that annoys me, but that's going to be my review for when Season 3 comes out of the show. That's unrelated. But we'll leave it at that. What do I rate the Blood of Elves, I'd probably give it 3.5. I really like The Witcher. It holds a place in my heart just for the games and the show. I've really appreciated the whole story, and this is the source of it all. I have a lot of respect. As I said, the reading experience is weird because I feel like I'm missing stuff all the time, and that kind of vexes me. But I don't know. If anyone else has read The Witcher, please leave some comments down below to see whether this is just a me thing. In which case, yeah, I'll just go and cry. No, yeah, I really like it still, and I'm going to carry on reading the series because I'm enjoying it, even if it's got a few faults. And I have heard that it does speed up a bit now that the setup's out the way. Fingers crossed, we'll see. But yeah, that's the Witcher review. So here comes. I'm gonna pop the question. What do I read next? I can just move on to Time of Contempt, which is the next book in the Witcher series. I could read a manga. I'm in a bit of a manga mood right now, so I could read. I could read some of Death Note, or I could read Shiver, which is a Junji Ito short story collection. Just looking around me, anything else that tickles my fancy? Discworld, I'm really into Discworld now. I've nearly finished 2 books, which is The Amazing Maurice and Hogfather, which I'll probably review at some point. If you want me to review one of them first, leave that down below as well, or vote on the poll I put on the community section. But yeah, if you've got any ideas for what you want me to read next, I know someone suggested a book on the previous video, which was really nice of you, thanks. My school library is closed now, so I need to pop down when I have free time to my local library to get a copy of the book. Yeah, I'll check it out as soon as I can, basically. But yeah. So if there's anything that I listed that sounds good to you, please tell me, because I'm pretty much game to read anything. It's down to you what you want to listen to me talk about in a half an hour video. Jesus Christ, sorry. Okay. Thank you for watching. That's the Blood of Elves, and I will see you on Sunday when I will be talking about either The Amazing Maurice or The Hogfather. Bye.